Let's go, Rider Nation.
I'm ready. I'm ready. Yeah, here we go. Here we go. Get your feeling now. Hit 'em high, hit 'em low. 'Cause we're dealing now. Everybody's giving it all they got. 'Cause we're ready.
Welcome to the Piffles podcast, your Saskatchewan Roughriders fan podcast. Take 3. We've tried this twice before and have screwed up twice. So we just
And we
decided
haven't
to
even made it to
completely.
the opening kickoff.
Not me.
Yeah.
Well, no, we did, and then you made me redo it
No,
anyway.
sir. We messed up before. Well, I messed up before the opening kickoff.
Oh, a good day. We're having fun. That's all that matters. You got me, Alex.
You got
on
me
X.
sick with a cold.
And I'm just glad we're here together because this is the third time we're doing it. So let's go.
No matter what, this one's staying. Thanks for listening wherever you find your podcast, watching on YouTube and SaskTel Max TV on demand. We appreciate it. We have a lot to get to. And before we do, you can find us on X at Piffles Pod. I'm at Real Alex D.
I'm at Safamud.
And as always, I do not need nor want your pity follows at Greg on Sports.
Piffles Podcast, of course, brought to you by Dairy Queen on Elphinstone Street and Sass Drive in Regina. Check us out on Facebook as well. And, of course, the website, pifflespodcast.com. I'm having a really good day, guys. I was in a really, really good mood going into today. And then a lot of rider stuff happened. And I think that's where we're going to start the show. Let's get to the opening kickoff. All right. So today started out like any other day. Went to work. It was a good day. Having a good day. Checking the phone every once in a while. Got the official word that Anthony Lanier did sign 1-year contract with the Riders. We were wondering about what was going to happen with the D-line. We'll get into that in a little bit. But things kind of just went out the window, and the last few hours of my day have been my phone's blown up, honestly. It was announced that by Justin Dunk. It was reported by Justin Dunk that Michael Ball is out as the Rider play-by-play voice. Now, I didn't really want to get into this. You guys were the ones that kind of talked me into actually doing this because we kind of have to, right?
It's the elephant in the room.
Yeah.
And to be fair, our 7 listeners probably are wondering how we're feeling right now.
Well,
So-
Mom, I'm doing okay. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And my basement is still here, so we're fine. And I there will be no grave dancing. I know there's probably people expecting us to grave dance. One, I haven't stretched. I have not stretched, so I do not need to grave dance right now.
And honestly, nobody on YouTube needs to see you dancing.
No, or SaskTel Max. No one wants to see that.
No.
I understand.
No.
Things that people need to understand. Michael Ball did not lose his job. He still has a job with Harvard Broadcasting.
Yes.
Has he lost a portion of his duties that include his time on the Rider broadcast? Yes, that is gone. He will still be on the sports cage after a bit of a hiatus, but that's where he is going to be from now on. And to be fair, he does a very good job at that.
I mean, if
that
you look
said-
at it, his job in media, especially with Sports Cage, is to create conversation and create chaos. And he does that very well. I don't think anybody here can argue that. He does that role, you're right, very, very well.
So what people are asking me, what happened? Well, I don't think it's any one thing that happened. I'll lay out some facts for you guys, and I don't want to get too deep into it. I worked for Rolco Radio for 10 years. I know the inner workings of radio especially in Regina, just a little bit. That said, I haven't been around in there for the last year and a half, so I'm not privy to things that are going on right now. I still talk to people, but I don't know everything that's going on right now, so I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I do. Michael Ball was hired by a program director for this gig, host of the Sports Cage, voice of the Riders, by someone who's no longer employed by Harvard Media. That program director got replaced, and his replacement is no longer that person, and that person was also replaced. The original PD that gave him the job loved him. Harvard loves him. That's why he's still there. He's been there for 25 plus years. He'll be there for a while. He's going to be still doing his show, all that kind of stuff. Craig Reynolds isn't the biggest Michael Ball fan. I'm not going to get into a lot of details here, but the Riders didn't have final say in who the play-by-play voice is because it isn't a Rider employee position. It's a Harvard employee position. I think this was a step with the Riders wanting to make it their position. So whether that was renegotiating the contract, whether this is just a new program director for CKRM just kind of following suit and wanting to keep Craig Reynolds happy, I don't know. But I think this is a step, and we've talked about this on the show before, where we think the Riders will go in-house with their broadcasting and probably still do everything their way. They control everything, and then they'll just sell that broadcast to Harvard. I think that's still in play, and this is just one more step towards it.
We need to also think that, yeah, they're going to follow the Hamilton model. That's for sure.
Yes.
But and I'm not talking out of school. I know for a fact, John Fraser, a good friend of mine, a friend of ours, all of us actually, fellow meatball, if you will.
Acquaintance.
Acquaintance. Yeah. Okay. Fellow meatball.
Unless he can get me Joey Chestnut's autograph at the upcoming Rush game, because if he can do that, I'll call him my friend.
I will make that request for you, just for you.
I could also text him myself.
But John talked about it on the 3 Down Greencast. He was like, the Riders were cold calling people, trying to get other people inserted into the mix because they were not fans of Michael Ball. And that's fair, but like you said, it was not their call. And John had several conversations with people high up in the Riders trying to get him in to apply to be the voice of the Riders. Whether or not he will this time around, I don't know. That's his call, and we're not going to speculate who's going to get it. That's not fair to anyone. But the Riders were not on the Michael Ball bandwagon, and I don't think they ever were.
And I think if you sit back, like just look at the reaction that came out today when the news came out, that reaction should more or less take away any of the personal thoughts you have on Michael Ball or the position. That reaction should give you a glimpse into why the Riders probably want to make this move. He's not popular. He's not, I don't know if well-liked is the right word, but it's very clear he's built up a lot of animosity in the CFL fan base. And it came out in huge levels today.
Ballsy's very polarizing. He has his fans, he has his supporters, and they will go to bat for him. We've learned that very well. He also has very loud detractors that were, yes, they were doing the full 2-step hustle on his grave today. So, yes, he lost his dream job. Mark Johnson put that out today. The man lost his dream job.
Yep.
And I will argue it could have been a lot worse. He still has a job. I'm assuming a very well-paid job hosting the Sports Cage. The Sports Cage is a staple of Regina radio. So he still has his voice. He still has some sway in the market. He just will not be the play-by-play of the Riders anymore. It could be.
No, even though he wasn't a Saskatchewan Roughriders employee, he still represented them. And that's, to me, where the issue was. I think he's right, because he says this all the time, that Like social media is a cesspool. And he's not wrong on that, because I
No,
do
no.
agree with him on that.
Oh yeah.
That said, he was the one that was constantly arguing with fans, arguing with CFL players over nothing. And that look reflects on the Riders, whether rightly or wrongly. It reflects on the Riders. And the team has gone through 2 very bad seasons where the outlook, from the outside is bleak, and there's a lot of negativity surrounding the team the last couple of years. The team needed to get away from that. This is one way that they can do that. And when you look at what's coming in 2024 we're excited about Corey Mace. I know a lot of the fans are excited about Corey Mace and the rest of the coaching staff. You want to keep that positivity up, right? And to associate yourself with someone who is that polarizing probably isn't the best thing for business. So it was
and don't get
time,
me wrong,
I guess.
Ballsy was the ultimate homer too. Like everyone talks about Roddy being the ultimate homer. So was Ballsy, but Ballsy was not as political. Like he was out there on broadcast saying the game was rigged. He was calling out the commissioner. Like at some point, the CFL also going to be like, "You're not getting Randy. You're not."
Yeah.
If you keep on doing this, so I get it. I do. Like you need like Roddy on our show after his time at CK around basically said he had to start picking the Riders to go 18-0, because if not, he was getting like hate mail. So I understand that aspect of it, but you still need to understand your audience is not just that diehard Rider fan audience. Your audience is the entire league. And unfortunately for Ballsy, he just could not separate that. He wasn't terrible. And I remember when he got the job, I was the only one that could speak about it because you worked for the competition. And I hoped he grew into the job. I wanted him to grow into the job. I wanted him to be good at the job because I knew how much it meant for him.
And the guy
But he
loves the
couldn't get out of
3-down
it.
game.
Like he
Like,
does, like
you
growing
won't-
the game. His podcast, Growing the Game.
Yeah.
Like he, like as a Regina, someone on the Regina Thunder board, he pushes that game from junior football to youth sports to grassroots.
Absolutely.
The dude loves the game.
Yes.
This job was not made for him. The bubble was too much. They talk about the bubble being on the quarterback, the Saskatchewan Roughriders. The play-by-play voice is just as bad, especially when you host a daily radio show. So separating those 2 jobs is probably the best thing for everybody.
So we'll leave it at that. The Riders are going to need a new play-by-play voice. We're not going to speculate. I have some thoughts on who it could be, a couple names, but that's, like you said, Greg, that's not fair to anybody. So we're not even going to bother doing that. And
3-man booth. Let's do it like Monday Night Raw. Us 3.
Oh, isn't it just 2 now on Monday Night Raw? Isn't it just Pat McAfee and
Oh, it is. It is Michael Cole and Pat McAfee as of
Okay,
this
Steve,
past
you're
Monday.
out.
That is right. Let's go.
Anyway, moving on, more Rider stuff. I just want to mention off the top here too about my Jim Hobson interview that I did. Mentioned last week on the show.
Very good, by the way. I meant to tell you that. Right.
I'm not going to say thank you because it wasn't me. That was all Jim. He told some great stories. He gave us a health update. Hopefully you guys can go out and it was 30 minutes. There's nothing cut out of that at all. That's everything that I talked to him about. Gave a health update. For those that don't know, Jim Hobson has been battling stage 4 colon cancer since April of 2021. Did 46 chemo treatments and has decided to stop doing the treatments and focus on the quality of life that he has left. So it's hard to ask somebody about that. And I think he handled it with such grace and just exactly like Jim Hobson does. You can tell that he's still upbeat. You can tell he is genuine and thankful for all the support that he's getting from Rider Nation. He told me that his phone it's not stopping right now between interviews and just, he mentioned in the interview guys that he hasn't talked to in 40, 50 years are finding his number, calling him, reaching out to him, wishing him the best, and just goes to show how loved he is. But shared some great stories about playing with Ronnie and George, him on kickoff coverage. But my favorite was him turning down Mick Jagger's after party because he was too tired.
Why?
Just
I don't care. I
Right?
don't care. Take a Red Bull. I don't care how old you are. You
they'll-
go to that party. You
they'll have
go
stuff
to
at that party to keep you awake, okay? But it was 30 minutes with Jim Hobson, so it's on the podcast. It's on.
It will be on our YouTube shortly.
The
Hopefully
link's
that's
up on the
Max.
Yeah,
Trying to get that on Max as well. So.
yeah. The link is up on the website as well too. I'll make sure we push that out every once in a while because Jim just shared some great stories that I think a lot of Rider Nation would love to hear. So, Jim, I know you said you only had a few months. Your goal was to make it to the home opener. Jim, we will see you there. We will see you at that home opener, and they're going to win for you.
And I cannot wait to not have my butt in the seat when they show them on the big screen.
Oh my goodness, that place is that building does not exist without Jim Hobson.
Yeah.
No.
We always talk about how Darian is the reason why we have new Mosaic.
Yeah.
I think it started well before him with Jim Hobson and what he did to that team. So he deserves the biggest standing ovation and celebration that anybody could get in that building.
And that's
Well,
why both those two men are on my Mount Rushmore.
He said in that interview I did with him was when he got the job as it was the first president and CEO before it was the board of directors that ran the team.
Yep.
When he first got that job, he said, "We're going to win Grey Cups, multiple Grey Cups." And people looked at him like, what? Do you know where you are? We don't do that here. And sure enough, not too long after he took over, they were in multiple Grey Cups, winning multiple Grey Cups. So that building out there, that's the house that Jim built. So Jim, we'll see you at that stadium for the home opener, and I know they're going to win that one for you. Now on to the on the field stuff, which is what we planned on talking about when we came in here today, doing the show this week, and we'll start like we have the last couple of weeks, talk about some of the re-signings that the Riders have had. None bigger this week than defensive lineman Anthony Lanier. It's a 1-year deal. Dan Ralph of Canadian Press hinted that he was going to be one of the top paid D linemen in the league. He was one of the top paid defensive players last year, of course.
He was the top paid defensive lineman last year, was he not?
Top paid defensive lineman, but top 2 or 3 just defensive players. When the guy's healthy, absolute beast and is worth the money because the havoc that he can create from both the defensive tackle and the end position there's not many in the league that can do it. The problem is that the guy's got to stay healthy. I mean, you could say that about literally any player in the league, right? But Lanier this year, more than any, I think needs to stay healthy.
Well, and you mentioned it. He went from being the highest paid player in the league to one of. So it's no question he took a bit of a pay cut. But I'm really hoping a lot of that salary is not tied up in a signing bonus because his health is the biggest concern. There's no question. I don't think anybody can argue that. That's been the problem the last couple of seasons. If he stays healthy, he's right up there as a top DL or defensive lineman in the league. No question.
If it comes between him or Robertson, I'm glad we signed him. Yep. And probably the happiest person is the person who films those karaoke videos because it's always going to be Anthony Lanier. Always.
Dude can sing. He loves country music too.
Dude knows every lyric. Like every time it comes to those things, I'm like, take Lanier. Always take Lanier.
No kidding. Well, with the Riders' needs going into free agency, they entered, the last couple of weeks with no returning defensive linemen starters under contract. You have Lanier under contract now, which is a big one. If they can pair him up with Micah Johnson, if they're able to re-sign him, and you find Brian Cox Jr. or Christian Albright, Lake Corday Moore, whoever else the Riders are going to have at defensive end, they've never had a problem finding defensive ends, so I'm sure we'll have a good one there on the other end. I'm not going to be too worried about that D line, though. I still think they're missing one piece, and that'll come up a little bit later here in the show. And the other one, re-signing that they had was a 1-year deal for Canadian defensive back Nelson Lacombo. And this one was interesting to me. Before I give my thoughts on it, what did you guys think of Nelson Lacombo's 1-year deal?
Well, I'm going to steal your point. This is a show me contract.
Damn it.
I was like, he's going to let me go first. I'm going to take his point. No, it is.
Yeah.
Lacombo's got all the talent in the world. He's got all the skills. The guy was invited to NFL camps. And he has not shown, I'm not saying he hasn't shown anything, but he has not shown to the potential that everyone thought he was going to be. This is the year he needs to get it together, because if not, he's just going to be another rotational Canadian somewhere. Maybe here, but he's not going to be that star everyone thought he was going to be. He's the Jordan Sisco of defensive backs.
Wow. Come on. He's a little bit better than Jordan Sisco.
That depends.
Wow.
How good can he plank?
Wow. That's a name.
A little
Sisco.
A little
Goodness.
harsh. You're gonna call him the Terrence Nunn next? Come on. Let's give him a little bit of credit. He's got the talent. He can do it. He's got to stay on the field. There's not really much else to it. He needs to stay healthy, and he needs to actually show the talent that got him those looks. I mean, what else? There's not really anything else you can say to that. So I guess we're both gonna kind of steal your point.
Well, I'm curious as to where he is going to line up in the defensive backfield come training camp. Are they going to put him at safety? Because if they do, he's number 3 on the depth chart. He's not passing Dalkey and Ford. I know they.
What if you move Dalkey down to linebacker?
You could, yeah.
That's after our show last week. I was thinking, replace Tights with Dalkey, move Dalkey closer to the line of scrimmage. I think that will pay off. But he's still number 2 behind Ford.
Yeah, I never thought of that. That's not a bad idea, especially if they want to keep that that will linebacker spot a Canadian spot as well too. But Nelson Lacombo, he has started games at corner, and he actually in his interview with Rob Vanstone for Riderville.com said it was Corey Mace made it easy to sign here. And the team made it easy to sign here. And he's looking forward to getting into that Corey Mace defense. So that gives me that little bit of hope that hopefully him and Josh Bell know what to do with a guy like Nelson Lacombo. Because, again, all the talent in the world, got to stay healthy. And if they can, even if he's a rotational player, that's fine. You need a lot of that. You're going to see a lot of that again this year, rotation in the linebackers, defensive backs. You're not going to be playing 100% of the snaps. You're going to be playing, 60, 70% a lot of the times, and you're going to see guys coming in and out. So I like the depth signing because it does give the team depth. I hope that this is the year that he really breaks out, because if he doesn't, like I was going to say, it's a prove it year. And if he doesn't, if he gets hurt again or just doesn't, then I think after this year you have to walk away. I know you want to, give your Canadian players a little bit of leeway when it comes to, before you say goodbye to them kind of thing. But I think at this point, if he doesn't do anything this year, it's time to move.
I think the biggest thing, if you look back at the 2023 or 2022 Argos, the biggest thing that stood out for their defenses for me was it didn't matter who was coming in or out at any point. They were absolute all-stars on the field. And if Mace and Josh Bell have faith that Lacombo can step into that role, at this point, any defensive signing they make, I'm going to be 2 thumbs way, way up, because I have that much faith in who they have on staff to mold this defense into what we've really come to expect in Rider Nation. Like we've spent a lot of years celebrating a lot of solid defensive teams, but that's kind of gone by the wayside lately. I'm hoping Mace and Bell can bring that back. That's a lot of fun.
A couple other signings. The team had defensive back CJ Colden and linebacker Zacoby McLean. McLean out of Auburn. So I know Belton Johnson is going to love that SEC school. So those those kids in the SEC, they know how to play. So if this guy can, there's opportunity at linebacker right now, the way I look at it. So any of the
SEC is
new,
a secondhand division. I know Belton doesn't listen, so I feel safe.
the one time he listens, he's going to hear
Yeah,
this.
the one time,
He's going to be all
got
over
my
you, man.
He's got my personal number. He can call me. It's fine.
I want to
so a
see
couple
him
more-
survive. I want to see McLean survive just because of his nickname, the Ricochet Rabbit. That's just fun.
That's
Along
cool,
with a bunch of the awesome names we've signed lately, I want to see guys that have the most entertaining nicknames to go with their names that they've. Because I want to interview him. Like, I want to know how that became your name. I know the story's out there, but I want to hear it from him. How did you become the Ricochet Rabbit?
Yeah, we'll mark that down. If he makes the team, we'll get him on. We'll ask him about it. We'll find a way.
Next thing you know, he's selling bunny ears at the Rider store.
Yes, please do. They need to do stuff like that. Why was there the UFL, the USFL and XFL merger league had their
USFL.
super draft a couple weeks ago, whatever.
Yeah.
But KD Cannon was one of the receivers signed
Hashtag once a
to
Rider.
whichever team. Yeah. Why was that not a thing? Why wasn't there a KD Cannon shooting out macaroni and cheese at Mosaic Stadium? Why wasn't there, stuff? Please market that kind of stuff. Go back. I mean, we can go on to marketing all we want, but do that. That stuff's fun. AJ Ouellette has the Thor hammer. Get a green one. Put AJ's. Well, maybe don't put AJ's hammer on it, but you put something on there. Put something clever on there. And
Wow.
yeah,
Wow.
we're not restarting.
Nope, not now. Woo!
Put something there. Have fun with it though, right? And
Don't get me wrong. The Riders being a step behind was the reason why we raised a lot of money for Nick Q. So, hey, if I got to sell bunny ears next year, I will gladly sell bunny ears for charity. Let's do it.
so find a guy with a good nickname, sign him, make some money. That's what the team should be doing. Okay. I told you guys to do some homework. We're going to do that this week because the negotiation window opens on Sunday. I think it's at 11 a.m. Saskatchewan time. I think it's at noon Eastern.
Hervey window.
Ed Hervey window.
Hervey window.
Yeah, sorry. And then free agency opens on February 13th. So teams will have 1 week to talk to players of other teams pending free agents. They can offer them contracts, and if they do, it's considered binding by the CFLPA.
Yep.
So if the player's like, okay, well, let's say the Argos offered Jake Dolagala something. Jake goes back to Calgary. They come back and say, well, we're only going to offer you this. He can go back to the Argos and get that money over there. Because that is basically a registered binding contract offer. So
They can't
should be
renege.
interesting week coming up in the Ed Hervey window. Yeah.
Yeah, like
And we
they
usually
can't back away.
hear a lot.
So I think I'm falling behind here.
Anyway, it's fine.
Good old technology.
Yeah, no,
Jeez.
they can't back off the contracts. So whatever they offer, they have to honor. So you don't have a team going, we'll pay you $500,000 to be our starting quarterback, and then all of a sudden Delago goes, okay, well I'm negotiating with Calgary over here, but Hamilton's telling me this, and then goes over, is like, well, actually we can only afford like 252-ish. So like, there's a reason why they need to do that. So because if not, it'd just be wild. But we still need someone to camp out at the Regina Airport telling us whatever players are coming in. Because there's going to be stadium tours to show off the jewel.
I'll do it. You pay my wages for a week. I'll sit outside. I'll right on the tarmac. I'll see who comes up those planes.
How much money to not make fruit trays?
I don't do that.
Oh, okay.
Okay, but anyway, I want to know now that the Riders can on Sunday start officially, wink, wink, talk to pending free agents. Who do the Riders need to sign in free agency? We know that there's some holes on this team. We have some names that we'd love to see them go after. Who do they need to sign?
Who's
Who
going
wants to
first?
jump in first?
I want to know who you think I was, because before the show you said you know for sure who my
Yeah.
first pick is. I want to know if you have him.
Well, I was going to say Steve's favorite quarterback, Chris Stravler, but then I realized that he
not
actually
be on
is
my
just
list.
a free agent.
He would not be on my list.
So that would not be it. I'm going to guess Brady Oliveira.
Number 1 on my list.
Yeah. Canadian, we talked about it, have the backup with Bertrand Houdon.
Mhm.
And guy was, I mean,
They're obviously setting
best player in
themselves
the
up
league last
to
year.
go for a number 1 running back. And now you have Brady out there, you have AJ out there, and now you have William Stanback out there.
Kadeem Carey's out there too.
Kadeem Carey's out there.
I think James Butler's a free agent too.
Actually, he tweeted something very ominous the other day. Now that I think
Yeah.
about it. So yeah, this is going to be a wild run on running backs this year. I think the Riders are definitely kicking the tires on AJ and Brady, and maybe William Stanback and maybe Kadeem Carey. I think they're going to target 2 of those 4 and hope they get 1.
Well, one of
But
those
Brady's
definitely
my
made
A1.
number 1 on my list, and it's neither AJ Ouellette or Brady Oliveira. And this one is specifically because I'm a bit of a homer, but I want to see them sign William Stanback because we need a standout UCF Knight alumni. We haven't had a good one since Keith Sholigan, and it's about damn time. So he's number 1 just for that. But honestly, Brady Oliveira is the obvious choice for number 1. I don't think you can look anywhere else. It's the passport. But when it comes to contract, he's going to cost $250,000.
Mhm.
AJ Ouellette being an American, you're going to get a discount there. And I think they're fairly even. And I would put Ouellette above, just based on that. So in the real list, Ouellette makes it.
He's not number 1 on my list, but AJ Ouellette's on my top 5 list.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong, I would like William Stanback as well, primarily because I want to use my favorite GIF, but now in today's current society, I don't think I can anymore.
Probably don't use a Vince McMahon gif.
No.
Great song back in the day, though. Just play
Great
the Macho Man playing the saxophone, right?
There you go.
Is that what it was? Hogan playing the guitar.
Yeah, Hogan
Brutus
playing the
Barber
bass.
Beefcake on saxophone as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The entire horn section.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm just going to zone out while you guys go back to wrestling talk. I'll be back in a minute.
I honestly think, like, if you're worried about ratio, Brady's an every down back. And yes, I would like AJ. I would like Stanback, but Brady's my guy.
I'm going to go with one other name on offense in my top 5. And I'd love to see him paired in the receiver group with Sean Bain Jr. I really hope the Riders are able to keep Sean Bain Jr. And I've said before that I think the Riders have a lot of number 2 receivers. They need an alpha. He's not one now, but I think he could be given the opportunity. I would love to see the team get DeMonte Coxey from the Argos. If you can pair him with Sean Bain Jr. and you have KSB, Sam Emelis, Mitch Picton in there, Jareth Stearns, if any of the other, American receivers, maybe it's Geronimo, former Green Bay Packer, right? Whoever it is. I like the idea of that starting 5. I think there's a lot of potential there. And I think Coxey could be that number 1 guy down the line. And I think he'd come cheaper than a lot of the big name receivers. Because there's a guy like Dalton Schoen who's out there, and I'm a big fan of Dalton Schoen. But the fact that he's going to be close to, if not over $300,000, you can get hopefully both Coxey and Bain for $300,000 or close to that anyway. I'd rather go with that than go after Schoen.
When I think if you're looking at spending big bucks on a free agent, I did originally have Dalton Schoen as the number 2 guy on my list, but that price tag is what took him off, just like it took Brady Oliveira off. If you're going to throw that kind of money around, the more obvious spot to throw money would be on the defensive side of the ball, and a guy that Corey Mace knows real well and is probably going to be the highest paid defensive player in the league. It's Darius Pickett. And he deserves
I think
every
we all
dollar of
took a
that
Pickett.
contract.
Yeah, he's on my
I think
list.
we all
That's
have
why I
Pickett
wanted-
on our list.
That's why I wanted to pick it first.
Aha.
Boo. Boo.
But the funny thing about Pickett, though, is he's posting out there, where should I sign? Where should I sign? I've replied to him a few times, say, you look pretty damn good in green and white. And there goes that little like notification. So who knows? Maybe there's something there. But, I mean, the guy...
I honestly,
Doing a
out
lot
of
of the
everyone
same
on my
thing.
list, I think Pickett's most likely to sign here.
I hope so. I think it was Farhan said that he expects him to sign with Toronto. I hope there's a Farhan was wrong on this one, because he would be excellent in green and white as kind of the anchor of Corey Mace's defense here in Saskatchewan. Also on defense, the Riders have an opening at cornerback right now. Why not go too far away with what you know, Jamal Peters from the Argos? He's on my list.
I legit did not take a defensive back on my list. Like I like Peters. I do. I don't think our defensive backfield has as many holes as a lot of people think. Roland Milligan coming back, but yeah, Peters would definitely be great. I'm worried about the defensive line. That's why I have Jackson Jeffcoat on my list.
That'd be
And
great.
especially with
And nothing would
came
make
out-
me feel better to take a player from the Bombers. Nothing would make me feel better.
And word came out today that Jeffcoat's definitely hitting free agency.
Yeah.
Whether or not he signs in Winnipeg still is to be determined. But I've heard from people out of Winnipeg that they're going to re-sign all of their free agents, and none of them are going to be wearing other colors because that's what they do. But I think this is the offseason that Winnipeg fans are in for a rude
Are hurting.
awakening, because they're going to see some of their big name guys walk out the door, because there comes a point where you cannot afford all these guys.
And don't get me wrong, like Winnipeg, we said this last year. Winnipeg signed all their free agents, well, most of the free agents last year, but they were an older team because of it. Like you can't sign everybody every year because guys get older. They lose a step. I think Jeffcoat is still going to be a very productive player next year, and I would love to see him in Ryder Green.
Okay, well, I have a defensive lineman as well. Someone that I think flew under the radar last year, has the potential to be really, really good. And again, my top 5 is all Toronto Argonauts. Why not? Right? They have, we're taking their head coach. They just won the Grey Cup last year, had a record tying year this year for wins. Great defense over there. It's not the defensive lineman that most people would think. In Sean Oakman, has that, big, tall frame. I think he's more of a Chris Jones guy than he is, a Saskatchewan Rough
Agreed.
Rider.
Agreed.
Dwayne Hendricks at defensive tackle.
This is one of those off the board picks. You're like, oh, okay, but yeah, it makes sense.
He would
like I
be
said,
last year. Last year it was Sean Bain for me. That I was like, I really like this signing. This is going to be a good one. And a lot of people were saying he wasn't going to make it through training camp. And he ended up being our best receiver. That's kind of how I feel about Dwayne Hendricks if the Riders are to sign him. He has sneaky potential to be one of the best defensive linemen in the league. And if he does that in green and white, I'd be all that much happier.
I'm going to say this right now. If that's your Sean Bain of this year, I hope the Riders do not sign him, because the last thing we need is an entire new season of you crotch chopping in everybody's direction with your "I was right"
twice. Jeez.
But in
hey,
fairness,
if he gets another signing, there's gonna be an Alex's right shirt. You're gonna be the only one to write Steve's right shirt.
I got my thing. I guess ties. You guys can guess players. That's fine. Anybody can do that. Go pick a tie.
Pick one
I
that's
must
not
be
between
right.
Calgary and Ottawa, though.
Nobody else
Come on.
ties. It doesn't happen.
But okay, speaking of Calgary receivers, I've got one on my list. And yes, I understand we are currently kind of flush in the Canadian receiver. I like Luther, and I can never say this name because it's so hard to say. Hakunavahu. Did I get that right? I don't know. I will learn to say it. I don't care. I think he's got a Hakunavanu. There you go. He's got a great logo. Why? Because I did it. But
Well, it's okay.
it's all right. But no, like the dude's got a ton of potential. It was a down year for him. It was a down year for all of Calgary's receivers. I think you put him in the right system with the right quarterback. The guy's going to shine. I love the Canadian Air Force era. And I think you got Lennius, KSB, Picton, Hakunavahu. We're set at Canadian receiver. If you want to start 3, you can start 3 at that point.
Yeah, I was gonna say if they can start 3, that's a huge win for the Riders.
I don't hate that at all, but I think Canadian receiver is the last thing this team looks for. But I wouldn't be mad if they signed him. I think he would look pretty good in pretty much any offense. I'm going to flip back to the defensive side of the ball. And I alluded to this last week, and you kind of alluded to it a minute ago, Alex. And yes, it's the big name signing, but I want it for one very particular reason. And it has to be paired with a Rider free agent signing. But I want the Riders to sign Sean Oakman and Micah Johnson. Because I don't care what team or what running back signs anywhere else. Who's going to want to run up the middle on those two guys? Period.
Those two guys, and then Lanier on the outside. Lanier's a good run stopper too.
No.
Oof, I like that.
Right? Like that's like I don't think you would see a more menacing defensive line than those four. Just for fun, sign Matthew Betts too. He's not on my list. He should be. He should be on everybody's list. But put those four. Don't spend money anywhere else. Just spend money on the D line.
I forgot he was even a free agent. That's the worst part. So he probably would have been on my list.
I have him on my short list, but I didn't put him on because the Riders don't have problems finding pass rushers, and the fact that he's the best one in the league and he's Canadian, that's going to cost you a lot of money. So for that reason, I'm out on the bets. But
I'm actually surprised that we haven't even talked about what many people deem as the worst part of the Riders roster, and that's still the offensive line.
I was looking at it, and every single year, especially the last couple of years, we've thrown out names. We want to see this guy sign, this guy sign, this guy sign on the O-line. It never happens.
I've got one, and I think it's going to. And I, for one reason, it's going to drive Bomber fans insane. Winnipeg own Jeff Gray.
You know, I was thinking about that. I had that down on my list. I had a short list of 10 names. He was on there. I just didn't think he would actually get to free agency. I still think the Bombers will re-sign him, but that would be huge.
I think there's a clear name. I think there's a clear name for the next guy. It's the guy we've seen before. We've already gotten Philip Blake back. Why not go out and get Dariusz Bledek back? Let's just rebuild that 2019 offensive line. See if we can somehow shake Dakota Shepley loose. Get Brandon Labatt out of. You know what?
Is he still on the suspended list? I feel like he's still on the suspended list.
He might be.
I'm gonna look at that.
But I don't
think
Bledek is probably not an expensive option at this point. I think he would be somebody that could step in and be that 5th, 6th lineman. And I wouldn't hate it. He had good connections here in the community. We liked him. We dealt with him with our charity event. Solid dude.
He's a great dude, and he has great stories too.
I've got a picture of him and Connor playing football when Connor was Was Connor 1 when we did the last Piffles Bowl? Or the first Piffles Bowl?
Maybe, yeah.
1 or 2. Like that was a long time ago. Yeah, like
I just want him to tell more draft day or draft interview stories. I know.
Those stories are amazing.
We're not going to say any of those. That's his choice to say them. We won't say them, but they're.
We need to get him on the record on those because those are wild.
Yeah, the off the record stuff can be a lot of fun sometimes.
All right. Well, we'll see what free agency brings next week. We'll start to hear some of these names not confirmed, but handshake deals put in place. We'll talk about that next week. As
We'll get Alex's tarmac report next week.
yes, the Ed Hervey window will be rolling on. That's the opening kickoff presented by Kathy Feshton of Royal LePage Regina Realty. We weren't really long on that.
Yeah, we did.
The Churchill Brewing Company odds and end zones right now. There's a trade, a huge trade actually, in the CFL between the Argos and the Ticats. 8 players. And so Hamilton got Canadian Jordan Williams. And to me, the big thing about that is the Argos trading away a starting Canadian, who they paid a $35,000 bonus to already.
So that's on their books, which is
Yeah.
even wilder. So they're obviously trying to get money to pay someone else. And I think that's where everyone's like, oh, they're trying to raise money to pay Pickett.
Maybe. But anyway, Hamilton gets that. They swap first round picks and a whole bunch of other picks as well. The big thing to me, so Toronto moves up 2 places in the draft. They get 2 third-round picks, trading away a second and a fourth. They also got a neg list receiver out of this, Deontay
They
Burnett.
named it.
They named
I
him.
can't-
They
I
named
can't believe
the
it.
neg lister.
I couldn't believe it. I'm like, there's no way they named the player. They named the player. That never
I
happened.
don't know if I've ever seen that. We usually hear about
well,
it 6 years later that, oh yeah, that guy was the neg list player you traded away.
Well, not even 6 years later. Like I remember when Chad Kelly moved in that swap. A bunch of reporters like, yeah, the Negless player is supposedly Chad Kelly. That's the only time, but you never see a team actually name the player. Do it more. That's awesome. I love it.
Yes.
Do it.
Yep. We need to see that more in the CFL. Just total transparency. That's what the CFL needs to do for everybody. But essentially 8 players. You don't see many 8-player trades in the CFL. So pretty cool to see something that big anyway.
It's just one player and a bunch of maybes because you don't know what that's going to be.
You never. Yeah.
I love the fact that a lot of people are panicking that this means Simone Lawrence is not going to be with the Ticats.
He'll still be with them, but it'll take them. They'll round out their roster, and then whatever money they have left, they'll give to Simone, and he'll sign with them.
Him hitting free agency is going to be interesting.
It's going to be a fun couple weeks in the CFL over the next 2 weeks.
I would love
My
to see him in
favorite part of
green
the
and white.
offseason.
I would love to see him in green and white just to see what happens.
Chaos.
On a level of 1 to Dwight Anderson, where are we at?
We always love
Oh,
Simone
well
Lawrence.
beyond.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Like seriously, on a scale of 1 to Dwight Anderson, where are we? Because
Well past Dwight Anderson. The hate
yeah.
for Simone Lawrence is so far beyond it. But he's the kind of guy, if he signs here, fans would love him in a heartbeat.
He's such
exactly
a good
my
dude.
point.
And
Exactly
you can
my
finally,
point.
amazing.
Steve,
You
you
can
can finally
finally
race
race
him.
You don't have to duck him
Oh.
anymore.
We'll get him out. He's ducking me. I showed up at the race at the CFL week. He was nowhere to be found. I won by default. I am faster than Simone Lawrence.
The 2 sweetest words in the English language.
Default.
Hey,
Where'd you
we
get
won a
that thing?
default flag football title. It still counts.
Damn straight it does.
The quarterback.
Yeah. Nothing else in the CFL we wanted to discuss this week. And we've been hanging on to this upcoming topic for a while. And I've wanted to do this because it still bothers me to this day. Irrational games that make you mad. But Greg, you suggested doing this. If you can go back in time and change the outcome of one game, one Rider game, outside of the obvious 76 2009 Grey Cups. Okay, Grey Cup games don't count. Because obviously, if you could change the outcome of one game, what would it be?
Actually, it's not even one game for me. It's one play. One play.
I know where you're going with this. Yep.
Because I made it very obvious. 2014 Banjo Bowl. The players heard the damn whistle, and Darian Durant does not get. Bombers don't get a free shot on Darian Durant.
Yep.
That play changed the trajectory of the team for years. they were probably well on their way to either repeating or at least making the Grey Cup. And then we had a gong show of a quarterback carousel till then. That's when he became, was it moderately successful according to Chris Jones? That game cost a lot of pain for a lot of people. And if they would have won the Grey Cup that year, Corey Chamberlain would have had more rope the following season after Darian got hurt again, if he would have got hurt again. You would have had another Grey Cup on the list for the Riders instead of the 4 that we have in 120 years almost. Yeah.
Just about.
Like, it's that changed the trajectory of this team for many years. I don't think Chris Jones would have been here because, like I said, Corey Chamberlain would have got more rope.
Very possible.
That one play changed the entire trajectory of the Riders' future right there.
And
that's still Ben Clark standing there.
That 2014 team, that defense was so good. They were so good. They almost won a playoff game with Kerry Joseph throwing 5 interceptions.
Yep.
Still probably should have won that game.
Seth Daggy.
Man. That was an awful offense without Durant. That was
they had no the backup. They had no backup quarterback.
No.
Like none.
Because they let Drew Willie go to Winnipeg.
Yeah. And I don't blame Willie for leaving.
No, of course not. He was never going to start over Durant, especially after he won a Grey Cup.
But yeah, that one play changed the trajectory of the entire Riders franchise.
I think for me, we're gonna step forward in time about 15 years, and this one's a 2-parter. First, it prevents an absolute travesty from befalling upon the world, and second, we would
know exactly what this is.
Cody Fajardo, 2019, doink off the post. I wouldn't even, again, just like you, I would change one play. One play.
Kyron Moore catches that ball 100% for a touchdown.
100%. He was wide open. If that ball is at a foot to the left, we are celebrating, and COVID never happens because the Blue Bombers never win the Grey Cup. And we are still, to this day, talking about the Bombers' winless streak.
November 19th, 2019.
No, November 17th.
It was 17th.
It was my birthday.
Yeah.
COVID happened.
The second worst thing to happen on
Bombers started
November
their dynasty,
17th.
And I got my dog. That is the 3 things happened that day.
I'm sorry.
One was
please do not say dynasty. It was not a dynasty. They lost 2 cups.
I used air quotes. Sorry, I used air quotes.
They were back-to-back champs, and that's all they get.
Hey, they won 2 in 3 years.
If they're a dynasty, so was the 2007 to 2013 Rider period. We were in just as many Grey Cups, won just as many.
In terms of Rider history, that was a dynasty, actually.
Yeah, it was. that is the best period the Riders have ever had.
Yes,
and will probably ever have for a while.
Yep.
Thank you again, Jim Hobson.
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna go to the day before the game before Jim Hobson became president and CEO of the Riders. The regular season game before. Let me take you back to October 30th, 2004. And a name that I will forever hate. And it's not Duncan O'Mahony. I will forever hate that name and for his field goals in the 2004 West Final. The guy couldn't kick a 30-yard field goal, hits 250-yarders. Absolute garbage. Spurgeon Wynn.
Freaking win.
The Riders go to BC Place, October 30th, season finale, last game of the regular season. The Riders win that game. We get a home playoff game against Edmonton. BC already had first place locked up. They had nothing to play for. Riders have the lead. I think it was, 38-34. Final drive. BC obviously going for the win at the end. Spurgeon friggin' win. Puts up a Hail Mary to, of course, G. Roy Simon, who jumps over Davin Bush, and I think Ladolfius McCallow was there too. But I know it was Davin Bush because I had a Davin Bush jersey and I never wore it again after that. It was one of the black jerseys too, which they need to bring back.
They need to get rid
No,
of
they
those.
don't.
But anyways, go on.
For lights out game only. Just use it. That's it.
For no game on.
Midnight Green. Midnight Green. Go ahead.
G. Simon catches that stupid Hail Mary, screws the Riders
Mm-hmm.
out of a home playoff game.
Mm-hmm.
The Riders should have had that home game against Edmonton. Yes, they beat Edmonton 14-6 the next week. Corey Holmes had a punt return touchdown. I think that was like minus 15 or minus 20 or something. Like it was cold in Edmonton that
It was
day.
chilly.
There's
It was
50 plus thousand people at Commonwealth Stadium that day. Like that was, I remember watching that on TV. That was wild. But I wanted so bad to go to that playoff game. And it was right there in front of us. And Spurgeon Wynn took that away from me. And to this day, I don't wish bad things upon Spurgeon Wynn. I just don't want him to have the riches in life.
Spurgeon Wynn has screwed the Riders on many occasions. There's what I call the Spurgeon Wynn rule. When you get down to the backup / third string quarterback, if they have that, the Riders are going to lose that game because
And it's BC's third stringers too.
usually, yes,
Buccaneers.
Always.
yeah, no, but Spurgeon Wynn also
We saw it this
beat us
last
as an
year.
Argo. Spurgeon Wynn will beat the Riders. That is always like they could bring Spurgeon Wynn out next year and he will beat the Riders.
God.
I wish I was kidding.
Oh man, that would totally happen too. I would not put. They really would lose to him again. I would change the
That's what I
outcome
say.
of that
Spurgeon freaking win. Spurgeon freaking win. He always knew how to beat the Riders in the most heartbreaking fashion.
We would have had our home playoff
know-
game 3 years sooner, and maybe the luster of the 2007 West semifinal might have been taken down a notch, and I don't know, but 2004 with Henry Burris at home, they would have just crushed Edmonton, and then for sure they would have gone in and beat BC again. But Spurgeon Wynn ruined that, and I will never forgive him for it.
Could you imagine
He's
how different this
vanished.
organization would be if Henry Burris had won a Grey Cup here? Just think about that for a second. Think about the next decade of Rider fandom and how much different things would be if we loved him instead of hated him. Because if he won a
How
cup
much
and
other
then left,
fan bases would hate us more?
Is that
think
possible?
about it, if he won one and then left, he would not get booed to the same extent. He would get the Kerry Joseph treatment.
I don't know if I go that far.
If he won
if he-
and left,
Harry Joseph got traded. He didn't want out.
he. That's the difference. Like, I still remember. Like, we just traded what? Why? And don't get me wrong. Like I said, that led Darian to eventually be our starter.
The guy, yeah.
But yeah, that
Would have been interesting.
like I said, that
Yeah.
one play in mine changed the entire trajectory of the entire franchise.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Like they say, football is a game of inches, and this proves it. Like we aren't even talking about games; we're talking about one play that changed everything for all of us.
I hate football sometimes. Sometimes it's just the worst.
Well, no, it's the ultimate. Like I'm going to gush here. It's the ultimate love story. Like you remember the losses as much as you remember the wins.
Oh yeah,
You
totally.
don't remember anything in between. But the soul, like I can 2009, I know where I was. I know who I was with. I can tell you the names of the bottles on the wall of the bar that I was at when they said there's too many men on the field.
Now imagine
Well,
it being Alex and I, and we were there.
Yeah.
You were there with my wife.
I was there with your wife.
But same time, 2013, I was sitting amongst the Ticat fans, and I could probably tell you every player's family I was sitting with. And but my favorite part of that was like they're looking at me, is like the guy said they weren't allowed to sell the tickets. I'm like, there's Bursa's wife, there's Kanji. Like, yeah. Oh well.
Maybe next year or next week we'll reminisce on happy moments.
Nah.
So these ones
We're
just
Rider
made
fans.
me irrational.
It's
That's not what
the
Rider
hurt
Nation
that
does.
defines us. Yeah, it's the hurt that defines us. It's the pain.
Happy moments. The 2013 Grey Cup. Done.
Done. And we're done. And we're walking away. Oh, and the lights out game and Kerry Joseph in the Labor Day, and we're done.
Yep, that's about it. Well, we'll leave the show there this week. I'm looking forward to next week because we talked about it. Free agency window opens, Ed Hervey window, the legal tampering window. Should get some news. We'll get more re-signings for sure by the team up until then, and then we'll get a real sense of. And to me, that's going to be the culture change with the Riders. Is not necessarily who they keep; it's who they go after. So I'm really curious to see who is high on the Corey Mace, Jeremy O'Day list to bring in and help turn things around.
I'm really interested in the difference between, because last time we did a full rebuild was Chris Jones, and he took an axe to everybody.
We won free agency that year. You look at who we brought in the 2016. Oh, we were excited.
Yeah, Justin Tabacotti, great signing. Sean Lemon, great rider. I can't wait to put him in the Plaza of Honor.
Who was that running back from Edmonton that he brought over that returned kicks and then got cut like 6 games in?
Kendall Lawrence?
That's it. Yeah, he sucked.
Wow, I can't believe I pulled that right.
Wow,
right on
good
the
one.
spot.
Yeah, I knew there was someone.
Wow.
Yeah, Kendall Lawrence.
But yeah,
I don't know why, but yeah, he sucks. Was just I don't think you've ever said anything so perfect on this show before. Just magic.
But yeah, that's it. No one, like, free agency, everyone's like, oh yeah, Ottawa wins free agency every year apparently, and they still are terrible. But the difference between this regime and what it seems to be a Chris Jones regime, I'm actually excited about this, because the Chris Jones one is going to be an axe. First year's going to suck, and you're going to build. This seems like they're already working their way to building in the first year. And
Corey May said it in his introductory press conference, and I believe it as well. There are some really good pieces on this roster the way that it is. There were really good players in 2023. So
they were doing really well till they lost 7 games in a row.
Yeah, it's identifying those players and seeing who wants to stick around. But there is good pieces there. So I think they've kept
that's the part that people
majority
keep
of who they're
forgetting.
going to.
That's the part that people keep forgetting is we were a solid team, and it seemed like the coaching was the problem. That inability to finish the second half of the year, and that problem alone has been fixed. Hopefully, we don't know how Corey Mace will be as a head coach. We can only hope, and like Ted Lasso says, it is the hope that kills you. But it's there. The pieces are there. The coaching staff is there. There's that air of positivity that we're not used to, especially over the last 2-3 years.
I was going through photos on my phone, and I saved the video of when Craig Dickinson gave his eulogy to the team, and it just made me mad all over again. And it made me so thankful that the Riders got it right here with Corey Mace, and just the vast difference that we're going to see in 2024 than what we saw, especially at the end of 2023. This is going to be completely different, and I'm looking forward to it. We'll talk all about that over the next couple of weeks, and we're going to get a real sense of the direction that this team's going to go in, and hopefully we'll see some great names joining us. But we'll save that for next week. Piffles Podcast, of course, brought to you by our great friends at Dairy Queen on Elphinstone Street, Sass Drive in Regina. Special thanks, of course, as always, go to Kathy Festian of Roy LePage Regina Realty and Churchill Brewing Company for their support making the show possible. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. And thanks for watching on Sass Telemax TV on demand. This is Tyler Gilbert with Ghost Behind Your Mind.